Hello peoples! In today's video we're going to be using a Hercules to do some solo ERT runs. Basically I made a video last week where I was showcasing the Ion and wanted to show people that you could still do ERT missions with it without much of a problem, which we did. The only problem with that is that ERTs now drops pretty decent loot, particularly in the form of narcotics that you can sell to make a lot of extra money. Now, when you're doing it in an Ion, obviously, you have no place to store that, so the next best thing to do is to take out either a C2, M2, or A2 Hercules, and not only do you have a ship that can pretty much complete the ERT because of the firepower and the defensive capabilities of it, but you got cargo space, and a lot of it. So, what we're going to do is take a look real quick at the Hercules here. So as you can see here, we've upgraded our gimbaled size 4 laser cannons to Omni-Sky size 5 fixed. Why? Because we want to be able to do as much damage as possible. You're going to be the only gunner here if you're solo. We've also upgraded the shields to the FR86 to give us a little bit more protection from the fact that we're going to take a lot of fire because we're going to be the only ship, going up against multiples. So makes sense. Other than that, pretty much a standard build. Link for this will be in the video description below, so check it out if you want. And I'm going to tell you right now, you can definitely, complete these ERTs solo in a Hercules, particularly in M2. It works out pretty good. So with that in mind, go ahead, get yourself a snack, a drink, sit back and get comfy, and let's get to it. Okay, so we've got our ERT mission here. So while I work to complete this ERT mission, let's go over a couple things. One, the ERT missions now are dominated primarily with large ships. We no longer have to worry too much about the Hurricane. If it was a Hurricane in the ERT mission like we used to get all the time, I'd be a little hesitant taking a Hercules in, because the Hurricane's going to be able to probably take you out if given enough time. I'm not saying that you can't win with a Hurricane in there, but it's just going to make life a little bit more difficult. And what we want to do is we want to try to get through these ERTs as quickly as possible to make the maximum amount of money as possible. The other thing is that the ERTs now, I've seen 890 jumps, I've seen A2s, C2s, M2s, Redeemers, Reclaimers, Starfarers, a lot of Connies, definitely a lot of Connies, Caterpillars. Every now and then you may even see a Vanguard that pops in. Vanguards aren't too much of a problem. You can generally pop them pretty quick, provided you hit with your size 5's laser cannons. And the Connies, I usually see a lot of multiple Connies. Now I go after Connies right off the bat because they're pretty easy to take down with those size 5 guns, but it's kind of a double-edged sword, because not only can you take them down quickly, but you have a tendency of just outright destroying them. And it's also been my experience so far that the Connies offer the best chance for getting some of that really good juicy contraband loot there. So as you can see, the final volley, I completely obliterated the Connie there, so I'm not going to get much out of it. I will get a little bit, but not much. I'm going to turn my attention onto the 890 jump. You can see that while we're shooting the 890 jump, I also have a Starfarer that's on me. This is going to show you that basically your Hercules with the right shielding will be able to take some decent punishment. So you don't need to be scared here about having your shields come down. Keep an eye on them. As you can see, I'm getting hit on multiple shield facings because I'm surrounded by the various ships of this ERT. I am keeping my eye on the front shield. If it does go down, just basically create some distance and increase power to shields and let them come back up and then resume. Again, you do want to try to persecute your targets as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, in this ERT, I got an 890 jump. That's a bit of a pain to try and wear down. I'd actually rather have a hammerhead than an 890 jump, as crazy as that sounds, because you can actually tank the damage coming in from the hammerhead turrets, and with those size 5 guns you have a pretty good shot of taking it out fairly quickly. Now, The other thing that we have to talk about is the randomness of that contraband loot. Okay, so in this case, the Starfarer decided to show itself, which is a great segue, because I've noticed that the Starfarers seem to have pretty decent loot. You'll get a good compromise between regular, like Laranite, maybe some Quantanium, and contraband in the form of perhaps ETAM or Neon or SLAM, right? And sometimes they'll have the fairly large 24 SCU containers, which is really good. The 890 jump, on the other hand, is kind of a suck-ass one because, number one, once you kill the 890 jump, you have to access the cargo bay by going all the way through the ship, and that can be difficult in 0G. Once the ship is soft death, you have to access elevators in order to get into the different floors, and in no gravity environment, EVAing, that can complicate things, and it's definitely going to slow you down. So sometimes you want to avoid it. Then of course you'll have things like other Hercules, C2, A2, whatever. They have a tendency to have pretty decent cargo as well, in the form of contraband. And just a side note, as you can see here, I've switched all my power to my forward shield because now the 890 jump is the only thing that is left in this ERT group. So I'm just basically going to sit here and pound away until it goes. Boom. The best type of ERT that you can get is obviously going to be in space because you have a pretty good chance of accessing it. Some of these ERTs, though, are occurring down on a planet's surface, and if the ship lands upside down or sideways or whatnot, that can complicate trying to get the loot out. So try to get the ones in space. Now, with that said and everything, we've now completed our ERT by killing off the 890 jump. So you are going to get a bounty for that, which is nice. This is a single ERT, by the way, not group. I did scan that 890 jump, and it just wasn't coming up, so I moved on to the Starfarer. Now I'm going to scan this one. And we are going to get a little bit of contraband, not major stuff here. We got some Laranite, we got some SLAM, tungsten, not great. So there is that random generation of loot that sometimes just doesn't work in your favor. Overall, generally, you do end up making a lot more money off of the loot when you have, obviously, more drugs to sell. Now, what I'm going to do is make sure you have a tractor beam, move the stuff out of the way if it's going to be impeding your ability to send that nice cargo over to the other ship, and then just start moving the cargo out. Now, this turned out to be my last mission for the night. I was all done, playing the game. So I decided that I am going to take everything. Normally, I would just move the tungsten out as fast as possible, get it out of the way, get to the good drugs, load up the drugs, move on to another ERT, rinse and repeat, right? And then when I'm got my cargo hold all full, I'm going to go into the salvage yard and sell it. But I've already done that a couple times, made, I don't know, somewhere around 2 or 3 million already for a couple hours work. So I decided that, all right, I'll take everything because this is the last one, and I'm kind of curious to see just how much money I'm going to make. Now again, that RNG Jesus for the loot did not favor me on this particular one. We actually had a very, very low amount of drugs that showed up, no weevil eggs or anything like that, none of the real high-end drugs that you can sell like Widow or anything. We had some SLAM and some Toxin and that kind of stuff. So it was okay. But I am going to end up loading everything up, and not only do I take the stuff from the Starfarer here, but I was able to get a little bit from another Connie that was blowed up earlier in the ERT. So here I'm just stacking everything up. Here's another little hint. Stack all your like-size items up together, so you can stack SLAM on top of SLAM and sell it and all that good stuff. You can stack weevil eggs on top of weevil eggs, and it'll cut down on the amount of space that you need, particularly if you're doing multiple runs for a very long time. If you have friends, I highly recommend, if you have it, to take an A2, because those huge gun turrets that it has will make short work of any ERT, and you've got enough cargo space, despite the despite the fact that it has bombs in it, to be able to haul a lot of that loot out. So here I'm just organizing my loot for the end of the night here. Again, if you're trying to do this as fast as possible, you obviously are going to want to move your butt faster than I am. I'm being a little gingerly here, just taking my sweet time, because I was kind of curious, what the average time would be to do an ERT and just kind of leisurely, move your cargo around to give me the absolute lowest amount per hour that I could make. So I'm doing that, as well as this is probably the worst turnout of drugs that I think I've seen yet in an ERT. So it's going to be indicative of probably the lowest price point that you're going to make at the end of the day. So with all that done, you're going to go to a scrapyard. Now, again, if you're solo here, I recommend that you do a flyover first. Make sure that there's not like a group of people waiting there to like seriously steal your stuff and kill you. Also, when you get out of your ship, just because you did a flyover and you didn't see any ships in the area, you should be acting like, hey, there's always the potential that somebody could be waiting in ambush. So we get in here and we sell our toxin. So we made 74,000 and some change. And we're going to sell our slam as well, and that one there was the most profitable at 270,000 with some change. And then we get to the neon, and that one there was 67,000 and some change. The tungsten, laranite, and quantanium, we're going to have to go to a commodities center on one of the planets, so we'll probably hop over to Crusader, because that's the system that we're in, and go in and sell off those as well. Now again, normally if you're just out for a good speed run, you don't care about this stuff, but I figured, what the heck, I'm done for the night anyway. So we got 34,000 there of tungsten. The laranite, we're up to 11,000, and then we've got the quantanium left to do. Alright, now we're going to do the quantanium next. We got 25,000 and some change on that. When we add everything up, including the 30,000 for the ERT, that's just a conservative estimate for a single ERT to complete, we're looking at 514,000 alpha UEC for about 25 minutes worth of work. That's not bad at all, considering it was one ERT. Now, in comparison to what you would normally get for the contraband drops, this is a pretty stingy one that I just completed, so this is going to be the lowest or worst case scenario, but I've gotten as much as 2-3 million from a single ERT and contraband that gets dropped, so you can really stack it up in an hour's time if you take your time and knock out at least 3 per hour. So even with that low number, we're looking at 1.5 million for an hour worth of playtime. That's still pretty good in my book. And it was pretty easy to do, right? I didn't have to do a whole lot of work, just run an ERT. And as you can see, using the Hercules M2 is pretty easy. So let me know what you guys think. Are you using the Hercules? Using the M2, the C2, the A2. A2 works really good when you got a group. Or any other ship, like perhaps a Constellation or maybe a Corsair. They all work well because they have decent cargo space. Hope you liked the video, and if you did, hit that notify, subscribe, and like button. And until next time, take care.